Let's go Broncos! The Denver Broncos are at a crossroads. Important decisions are being made behind the scenes. Fan-favorite veterans are about to be released. The locker room chemistry, the very heart of this team, is at stake. And all this in pursuit of a single goal, the Super Bowl 61 title. But here's the twist. Some of the names being considered for possible cuts due to salary issues. You won't believe it. We're talking Pro Bowl selected players, locker room leaders, and athletes who bled orange and blue to lead us to the top of the AFC. Some of these decisions may infuriate fans, others may pave the way for blockbuster signings. What's really going on behind the scenes? I have all the details, and I promise, this isn't the Broncos news you were expecting today. So, before we delve into the subject, do your part. Click the like button if you believe this team is just one or two smart decisions away from lifting the Lombardi Trophy next February. And if you're one of the die-hard Denver Broncos fans who followed them since their mile-high days, leave a comment below saying, "Go Broncos! My heart bleeds orange and blue." Alright, let's get to the real story behind the cuts, the salary cap, and the future of our Denver Broncos. Right now, all eyes are on the Broncos front office as they face a series of tough decisions involving veteran players and cap space. Denver is projected to have between $35 and $40 million in cap space, depending on how things shake out with the league's final salary cap number. But if this team wants to get aggressive in free agency, they're going to have to make some painful choices, and that means some well-known names could be on the chopping block. The first name generating buzz is Ben Powers, one of the earliest additions made by Sean Payton to fortify the offensive line. When Powers was healthy, he was playing at a high level, no question. But he tore his bicep and missed a chunk of the season. Despite that, the Broncos' offensive line remained dominant, and Bo Nix was one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league. That tells you just how much depth and coaching strength the O-line had this season. But here's where it gets interesting. Powers' absence didn't result in a steep drop-off in production. In fact, the team rolled with its fourth option at guard, Paltrow, after injuries to not just Powers, but also Gargiulo and Matt Pert. Paltrow stepped up in a big way, but let's be real, he wasn't even option 1, 2, or 3 going into the season. That's a huge credit to offensive line coach Zach Strief and what this coaching staff has built. Cutting Ben Powers would save $8.5 million. That's a big number. With that kind of room, the Broncos could realistically target a weapon like George Pickens or even go after a player like Kenneth Walker to juice up the offense. So while it's tough to say goodbye to a veteran like Powers, this is one scenario that could make a lot of football sense, especially if the front office trusts that Gargiulo and others are ready to step into a larger role. Next up, Brandon Jones. This one is controversial. Cutting Jones would save $7.4 million and would carry the smallest dead cap hit of the potential cuts. But let me be clear, this move doesn't sit well. Jones was part of a safety duo with Talanoa Hufanga that brought real energy to the secondary. That said, the defense held strong even when Jones was out, especially during the crucial Patriots game late in the season, where the defense looked like a top-tier unit. Still, cutting Jones would mean re-signing P.J. Locke and hoping he takes a serious hometown discount. There's also the fact that the defense did give up 30 points to Buffalo in a game where Jones was absent, which you could argue exposes his value. But is that worth risking the cohesion of a defense that showed it could lock teams down when it mattered most? Tough call. Then there's Dre Greenlaw. This is where it gets emotional. Greenlaw missed time with a hamstring injury, but he battled back ahead of schedule and showed flashes of the elite linebacker he can be. Cutting him would open up $6 million in cap space, but it would also get the linebacker core, especially since both Alex Singleton and Justin Strnad are currently without contracts. Cutting Greenlaw would leave the Broncos with a black hole at inside linebacker, a move that seems far too risky given how essential that position is in Vance Joseph's scheme. Add to that the fact that San Francisco fans are already salivating at the idea of signing Greenlaw if he's released, and it becomes even clearer, the Broncos need to keep this guy in orange and blue. Now, Evan Engram. This one stings. He didn't have the season we hoped for, but let's not forget, he made the Pro Bowl in 2023 and was lighting it up during training camp. Expectations were sky high, and then came the back injury during the Colts game. It derailed his season completely. Anyone who's followed players with back injuries, think Michael Porter Jr., knows how devastating and lingering those issues can be. But before the injury, Engram looked like he was going to be a monster in Sean Payton's system, his Joker, a hybrid weapon made to terrorize defenses. Cutting Engram would save $3 million but trigger a $7 million dead cap hit. Not great, unless you've already lined up a replacement like David Njoku or Cole Kmet. It's hard to justify moving on from a player who clearly has untapped potential in this offense. Remember, Engram chose Denver over the Chargers in free agency, and that loyalty should count for something. Unless the front office has an ace up its sleeve, cutting Engram feels premature. Finally, there's Matt Pert. He filled in for Powers during the Jets game and struggled badly. But it turns out he was playing through a serious knee injury that ended his season. So can we really judge his performance based on that one appearance? Probably not. If Pert can return healthy, he might be a solid depth piece. But here's the deal, you can't cut both Powers and Pert. That would wipe out too much experience on the interior line. If you let one go, you better be sure the other is ready to contribute. Because here's the reality, every decision the Broncos make this offseason carries massive weight. This isn't a rebuilding year. This is a reloading year. A championship window is wide open, and the wrong roster cut could slam it shut before the first snap of 2026. Let's go back to that locker room culture for a second. This 2025 squad wasn't just talented, they were bonded. You saw it. Players hanging out off the field, attending each other's charity events, spending time at each other's homes. It was family, and that's something money can't buy or coach into existence. You mess with the wrong foundational piece, and you could upset a locker room that was tighter than even the 2015 Super Bowl winning roster. Sean Payton knows this. George Payton knows this. The question is, how much risk are they willing to take for cap savings? And let's be real about what cap flexibility can do. We're talking about going after legit weapons. The Broncos could make a run at a player like George Pickens if he's available. That's a move that changes the offensive identity overnight. Or they could pursue a top-tier running back like Kenneth Walker, someone who brings instant explosiveness to pair with Bo Nix and elevate the backfield. But to make moves like that, space has to come from somewhere, and right now, the names on the list are beloved veterans with real value. Still, as much as we love some of these players, this is a business. If Ben Powers' absence didn't cripple the O-line, and in fact, made room for unlikely heroes like Paltrow to shine, then maybe it is time to cut ties and use that $8.5 million elsewhere. It's not an emotional decision. It's tactical. And it's exactly the type of cold, calculated call that builds championship rosters. But the Brandon Jones situation is different. His cap savings are tempting, but that safety room is already walking a tightrope. If you let Jones go, you better hope PJ Locke is both affordable and willing to stay. Otherwise, you're downgrading one of the most important units on a defense that was top tier down the stretch. Even more than that, Jones and Hufanga were a force. Break that up, and you risk taking a step back just when the defense found its stride. Greenlaw, you already know. He's the enforcer, the heart of the defense. The guy who comes back from injuries early and hits like a freight train. If you let Greenlaw go, you better have 3 inside linebackers ready to walk through that door, because both Singleton and Stranad are currently unsigned. That's too many variables for a position that thrives on consistency and physicality. Don't mess with that. And as for Evan Ingram, this one keeps me up at night. You don't just cut your joker unless you've already got the next card up your sleeve. Ingram might have had a disappointing year on paper, but let's not forget what he showed us in training camp and preseason before the back injury. The chemistry with Bo Nix was there. The explosive playmaking was there. It's not a question of talent. It's a question of health, and whether you believe he can bounce back. And if you don't believe that, then you better already be talking to someone like David Njoku or Cole Kmet behind the scenes, even if you're not supposed to be. Because replacing a tight end like Ingram isn't something you do on a whim. Matt Pert, he's a depth guy with upside. He had a rough outing, sure, but he was playing on a bad knee that ultimately ended his season. It's impossible to evaluate him fairly based on that game. And with Ben Powers potentially gone, you need a guy like Pert around just in case. It's all about depth in the trenches, especially in a league where injuries are inevitable. Pert might not be a starter, but if he's healthy, he could be a valuable swing option at guard or tackle. The bottom line, don't gamble on your O-line depth in a season with Super Bowl expectations. Now, one thing nobody's talking about enough is the domino effect. Let's say you cut Powers. You free up that $8.5 million, and maybe that lands you Kenneth Walker. Suddenly, your run game explodes. Bo Nix has more play-action opportunities, your time of possession improves, your defense gets more rest. One move could ripple across the whole roster. That's what the front office is weighing right now, not just the cost, but the chain reaction each decision could trigger. But again, it all comes back to chemistry. This Broncos team wasn't just the most talented in the AFC, they were the tightest. You don't want to fracture that bond chasing a few million in savings, because once you lose that, you can't get it back. And the whole reason we believe this team is destined for Super Bowl 61 is because of what they built together in 2025. Cut the wrong guy, and that belief starts to crumble. So Broncos country, you've heard the names. You've seen the numbers. You felt the impact of these players all season long. If you had to choose one, just one, to move on from in order to chase a dream signing, who would it be? And who do you absolutely refuse to let go, no matter what the cap says? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more deep dives like this, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and check out the video on your screen right now for more Broncos coverage as we build towards Super Bowl 61. Go Broncos!